The Quiet Witch's Apothecary. Volume 1. The Quiet Witch's Everyday Life. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Chose a Quiet Life. The morning mist rolled gently over the hills surrounding Willowridge, a quiet countryside town where narrow roads wound between farms, flower fields, and old forests. The town wasn't famous for anything in particular, but people liked it that way. The loudest sound each morning was usually the church bell in the town square, followed by birdsong and the occasional rumble of delivery trucks bringing fresh produce from nearby villages. Magic also existed here, not as legends, not as fairy tales, as part of everyday life. Everyone knew witches, spirits, and magical creatures existed. Schools offered elective classes on magical history, hospitals employed licensed healing witches, and government offices had departments that handled supernatural affairs. But seeing a real witch was still uncommon. Most lived quietly, away from the cities. At the edge of Willowridge stood an old wooden building surrounded by lavender, rosemary, mint, and blooming wildflowers. A weathered sign swung gently in the breeze. Moonleaf Apothecary. The building looked old but lovingly maintained, its windows framed with flower boxes overflowing with herbs. Behind the shop stretched a large garden filled with neat rows of magical and ordinary plants, all flourishing under careful hands. Inside, shelves lined every wall. Glass bottles of every shape caught the morning sunlight. Bundles of dried herbs hung from the ceiling. The room smelled of tea leaves, fresh mint, honey, and cedar wood. Behind the counter stood a young man quietly arranging jars. His black hair was slightly messy, and a pair of thin glasses rested on his nose. He wore a dark green sweater beneath a beige apron embroidered with a small moon and leaf. This was Elias Rowan, 23 years old, a witch. He carefully wrote a new label with enchanted ink. Lavender sleep tea, drink 1 cup before bedtime. He placed it neatly on the shelf beside other handmade remedies. There were no grand displays or expensive advertisements. Just simple wooden shelves filled with small comforts. A salve for sore muscles. Tea for restless nights. Soap that kept mosquito spirits away. Candles that eased anxious minds. Potion bottles that helped houseplants recover after harsh summers. They weren't miraculous. They simply made life a little easier. Exactly how Elias preferred it. The small bell above the door chimed. Elias looked up. An elderly woman stepped inside with a warm smile and a basket covered by a cloth. "Good morning, dear." Elias smiled softly. "Good morning, Mrs. Agnes." Mrs. Agnes placed the basket on the counter. "I baked too many apple pies again." Elias looked at the basket. "There are 6. I know. You live alone. I know. You baked 6. Mrs. Agnes laughed. "And you'll help me eat them." Elias let out the faintest chuckle. "I suppose I don't have much choice." "Exactly." She looked around the shop. "It still feels like your grandmother is here." Elias's smile became quieter. "It does." It had been almost a year since his grandmother had passed away. She had raised him. She had taught him every herb in the garden, every potion recipe in the old books, and every lesson a witch should know. "Magic isn't measured by how powerful it is," she would often say. "It's measured by how many people sleep peacefully because of it." Elias had never forgotten those words. He had inherited not only the shop but also its purpose. Mrs. Agnes glanced toward the window. "The roses outside are blooming earlier than usual." "They're happy. Happy. I made them a nutrient tonic yesterday." Mrs. Agnes nodded as though that explained everything. Around Willowridge, it usually did. After she left, the shop fell silent once more. Elias swept the floor, watered a few enchanted ferns, and updated his inventory. He liked silence. Silence allowed him to think. Silence allowed him to hear the rustling leaves outside and the gentle bubbling of potions simmering upstairs. It never felt lonely. It felt peaceful. Just before noon, he carried a watering can into the garden behind the shop. Rows of herbs shimmered faintly under the sunlight. Moon mint, silver sage, star lavender, golden chamomile, glow moss. Each plant responded slightly as Elias passed, their leaves swaying despite the still air. He smiled. "Good morning." The herbs seemed to brighten. Plant magic wasn't loud. It was patient, much like the witch who tended them. As Elias reached the center of the garden, he stopped beneath a towering tree unlike any other. Its silver bark glimmered softly, and its emerald leaves sparkled like tiny stars. The spirit tree. His grandmother had planted it decades ago. No matter the season, it never lost its leaves. Elias gently rested a hand against its trunk. Morning. The leaves rustled in answer. A gentle breeze circled the garden. For a brief moment, the old wind chime hanging from the greenhouse rang without any wind at all. Elias looked up. Grandma. Only silence answered. He smiled sadly. I'll take good care of everything. The leaves shimmered once more. Far beyond Willowridge, deep within an office of the National Witch Registry, a sealed envelope bearing the Rowan family crest quietly slid from an ancient filing cabinet onto the floor. No one noticed. The faded wax seal cracked on its own. Inside was a single line, written in elegant handwriting. The spirit tree has accepted its new caretaker. Far away, something long dormant had begun to stir. But in the quiet countryside, Elias knew nothing of it. He simply returned to his garden, humming softly as he watered his herbs, content with the peaceful life he had chosen. Chapter 2 Opening Day. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains of the apartment above Moonleaf Apothecary. A brass alarm clock chimed softly. Elias Rowan slowly opened his eyes. Morning. He remained in bed for another minute, listening. Birds chirped outside. Leaves rustled in the gentle breeze. Downstairs, glass bottles clinked faintly as the old wooden shelves settled with the morning temperature. Everything sounded exactly as it should. Only then did Elias climb out of bed. His mornings rarely changed. Brush his teeth, open the windows, water the potted herbs on the second floor, check the potion cauldron that had been simmering overnight. Then, tea. Always tea. He carefully measured dried moon mint, lavender, and a single petal of silver chamomile into a porcelain teapot. Steam slowly filled the kitchen. The familiar aroma made him smile. My grandmother always said a witch should never begin brewing potions before making tea. He poured himself a cup. She was right. After breakfast, Elias walked downstairs. Today's date had been circled on the old calendar hanging behind the counter. Official reopening day. Although the shop had quietly served a few longtime customers during the past year, today marked the first day Elias would fully reopen Moonleaf Apothecary under his own name. He wasn't expecting many visitors. Honestly, he hoped it stayed quiet. He unlocked the front door. The small bronze bell rang. A wooden sign swung into place. Open. He took one deep breath. Let's do our best. The shop was spotless. Shelves overflowed with carefully labeled bottles. Healing teas, herbal soaps, sleep potions, plant fertilizer, magical candles, honey harvested from tiny spirit bees. Everything had been arranged 3 times the previous night. Even so, Elias adjusted, one crooked bottle by a few millimeters. Better. The first customer arrived only 10 minutes later. A young office worker stepped inside wearing a wrinkled suit. Dark circles rested beneath his tired eyes. He looked exhausted. Good morning. Elias smiled politely. Welcome to Moonleaf Apothecary. The man scratched the back of his neck. I heard this place sells remedies. We try. I've been working overtime for nearly 2 months. He laughed weakly. I can't sleep anymore. Elias studied him quietly. He wasn't cursed. He wasn't sick. He was simply burned out. Would you mind waiting a moment? The man nodded. Instead of grabbing a ready-made bottle, Elias walked toward a shelf filled with herbs. He selected lavender, moon mint, a pinch of dreamleaf. Then he added warm honey harvested from spirit bees. He carefully packed everything into a small paper pouch. This isn't a sleeping potion. The customer blinked. It isn't. No. Elias smiled gently. Your body isn't asking to be forced asleep. It's asking to feel safe enough to rest. The young man looked confused. So, it's tea. Tea. A very good tea. The office worker laughed. For the first time since entering the shop. It sounded genuine. I expected something more magical. It is magical. Elias replied. It's simply quiet magic. Before leaving, Elias handed him one more item. A small lavender sachet. Place this beside your pillow. Will it make me sleep? No. It will remind you to breathe. The man stared for a moment. Thank you. Not long after, the bell rang again. This time, an elderly farmer entered carrying a flower pot. His shoulders slumped. Elias. Mr. Romero. My wife's roses stopped blooming. He carefully placed the pot on the counter. They've survived 20 years. But this spring, they won't open. Elias gently examined the soil. Healthy. Roots. Healthy. Leaves. Healthy. Then, he noticed something. The flower pot had been moved. Did you relocate them? The old farmer nodded. After my wife passed away, I couldn't bear looking at the garden. So I brought them onto the porch. Elias remained silent. He carefully touched one unopened bud. They miss the sunlight. What? They're healthy. They're simply waiting. The old man's eyes slowly widened. Like me. Elias nodded. Perhaps. Instead of selling him an expensive potion, Elias handed him a tiny bottle. Flower Awakening Tonic. Use only 3 drops. And, he smiled softly, move them back to where your wife always cared for them. The farmer swallowed hard. Thank you. Throughout the afternoon, more people arrived. A college student needing a concentration tea before exams. A baker searching for herbs that kept bread fresh longer. A young mother buying mosquito-repelling soap for her children. A florist wanting fertilizer for struggling lilies. None of them came looking for miracles. They simply wanted someone who understood both herbs and people. By sunset, the once quiet shelves were noticeably emptier. Elias carefully wrote every sale into his notebook. He wasn't rich, not even close, but today's earnings were enough to cover the month's expenses. He smiled to himself. I think, Grandma would be happy. Just then, the front door burst open. A young man hurried inside carrying several cardboard boxes stacked almost taller than himself. Delivery for Moonleaf Apothecary. He took one more step. Whoa. The boxes tilted dangerously. Elias instinctively reached out, catching the top 2 before they could crash to the floor. The delivery driver blinked. You just saved my life. Elias looked at the boxes. I think I saved the bottles. The young man laughed loudly. Ha. Fair enough. He set the remaining boxes down and offered a bright smile. My name's Noah Cruz. I deliver around Willowridge. I don't think we've officially met. Elias adjusted his glasses. I'm Elias. Noah looked around the warm little shop, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. It smells amazing in here. It always does. You know. Noah grinned. I have a feeling I'm going to be visiting this place a lot. Elias wasn't sure if that was a good thing. But somehow, for the first time in a long while, the shop felt just a little less quiet. And though he didn't realize it yet, this cheerful delivery driver would soon become the first true friend of the Quiet Witch. Chapter 3: The Tea That Stops Nightmares. The rain began before sunrise. Soft droplets tapped gently against the windows of Moonleaf Apothecary, filling the quiet shop with a peaceful rhythm. Elias stood behind the counter, carefully grinding dried moon mint with a stone mortar. The aroma of fresh herbs drifted through the room. Outside, Willowridge moved more slowly than usual. Umbrellas bobbed along the streets, and the usually lively market square was nearly empty. Rainy days meant fewer customers. Elias didn't mind. They were perfect days for brewing. A kettle whistled upstairs. He poured hot water over freshly picked herbs and watched the steam curl upward like tiny spirits dancing through the air. His grandmother used to say, tea is the gentlest form of magic. Unlike powerful potions, tea never forced the body to change. It simply encouraged it to remember peace. Elias had always liked that philosophy. The small bell above the front door chimed. A woman stepped inside, carefully holding the hand of a little boy. Both were soaked from the rain. Welcome. Elias immediately walked over with 2 clean towels. Please dry yourselves first. The woman smiled apologetically. Thank you. The little boy hid behind his mother's coat. Only his large brown eyes peeked out. My name is Clara. I'm Elias. She hesitated before speaking again. My son hasn't been sleeping. The boy looked down. He has nightmares every night. I've tried doctors. I've tried counselors. I even bought expensive sleeping medicine from the city. Nothing works. She looked exhausted. So someone told me, the countryside witch might know what to do. Elias crouched until he was at eye level with the child. What is your name? Lucas. Nice to meet you. Lucas nodded slightly. Elias didn't ask about the nightmares. Children rarely explained them well when pressured. Instead, he smiled gently. Would you like some hot chocolate? Lucas blinked. Yes. A few minutes later, Lucas sat quietly at the tea corner, warming his hands around a mug of hot chocolate topped with tiny marshmallows. His mother relaxed for what seemed like the first time in weeks. Elias sat across from the boy. What do you like? Lucas thought carefully. Dinosaurs. Really? He nodded. And stars. And frogs. Elias smiled. That's quite a combination. For nearly 20 minutes, they talked about dinosaurs, stars, rain, books. The little boy slowly forgot he was inside an apothecary. Only then did Elias ask softly, "Do the nightmares always happen at night?" Lucas nodded. "Is there a monster?" The boy shook his head. It's the dark." Elias remained silent. "The dark feels too big." His tiny voice trembled. "And when I wake up, I think I'm alone." Elias finally understood. The nightmares weren't magical. They were loneliness wrapped in fear. He disappeared upstairs for several minutes. When he returned, he carried a small wooden box decorated with tiny carved moons. Inside were fragrant tea leaves mixed with lavender, moon mint, honey blossom petals, and silver chamomile. "This tea won't stop nightmares." Clara looked surprised. "It won't." "No." He smiled softly. "It helps people feel safe enough to rest." He handed the box to Lucas instead. "You'll help make it every night." Me. Elias nodded. "Boil the water. Watch the steam. Count to 20. Smell the flowers. Then drink slowly." Lucas listened with complete attention. "It becomes your bedtime adventure." The little boy smiled for the first time. Elias wasn't finished. He walked toward one of the shelves. From it, he took a tiny glass bottle filled with glowing blue dust. "This is dreamlight powder." Clara looked curious. "What does it do?" Elias chuckled. "Almost nothing." He sprinkled a tiny pinch into the fireplace. The powder floated upward. Tiny glowing lights drifted across the room like gentle stars before disappearing. Lucas gasped. "Stars. Only for a minute." Elias smiled. "They remind children that darkness also holds beautiful things." Lucas watched the last light fade. Can monsters use it? No. Why? Because monsters hate bedtime tea." Lucas burst into laughter. Even Clara couldn't help smiling. Before leaving, Lucas tugged gently on Elias's sleeve. "Mr. Witch. Yes. When I don't have nightmares anymore. Can I come back anyway?" Elias looked surprised. Then, he smiled warmly. "Of course. The tea corner is always open." The shop grew quiet again after they left. Rain still fell outside. Elias cleaned the teacups while humming softly. He never wondered whether his remedies worked instantly. Healing wasn't always immediate. Sometimes, people simply needed someone who listened without rushing them. Late that evening, someone knocked gently on the shop door. When Elias opened it, a small paper bag sat on the doorstep. Inside were homemade cookies. A handwritten note rested beside them. Lucas smiled before going to bed tonight. "Thank you for giving us hope. Clara." Elias quietly folded the note and placed it inside an old wooden box where he kept every letter of gratitude he had ever received. There were only a handful inside. But each one reminded him why he had chosen this quiet life. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Above the clouds, the stars shone softly over Willowridge. Somewhere in town, a little boy carefully counted to 20 as fragrant tea steamed gently in his favorite cup, no longer afraid of the night. Chapter 4 Noisy Delivery Driver. The peaceful silence inside Moonleaf Apothecary lasted exactly 43 minutes. Then, ding! The front door burst open with enough enthusiasm to make the tiny bell ring several times. "Good morning, Elias." The familiar cheerful voice echoed through the shop. Elias looked up from labeling potion bottles. Good morning, Noah." Noah Cruz walked in carrying 2 cardboard boxes and wearing his usual bright smile. His navy blue delivery uniform was slightly dusty, and his cap sat crooked on his head as always. "I've got your herb order." He carefully set the boxes down this time, then proudly crossed his arms. "No dropped bottles today." Elias adjusted his glasses. "I'm glad." As Noah signed the delivery papers, his eyes wandered around the shop. "You reorganized the shelves." "I moved the teas." "Why?" "So they're easier to find." I didn't notice." "I know." Noah laughed. I think only you would. Elias simply smiled. While unpacking the boxes, Noah noticed bundles of herbs he had never seen before. These look different. They're silver sage. What do they do? They help reduce headaches. So, magic aspirin. Elias thought for a moment. That's surprisingly accurate. Noah laughed so loudly that even the wind chime near the window jingled. Just then, the bell rang again. An elderly man entered, rubbing his stiff shoulders. Morning, Elias. Good morning, Mr. Dizon. My back's acting up again. Noah quietly stepped aside, watching with curiosity. Instead of immediately reaching for medicine, Elias asked, "Have you been chopping wood since sunrise?" Without stretching, Mr. Dizon looked away. Maybe. I see. Elias disappeared into the workshop. A few minutes later, he returned with a small ceramic jar. Mountain herb salve. He handed it over. Massage it into your shoulders tonight. The old man nodded. How much? Elias named a modest price. Mr. Dizon smiled. You always charge too little. I charge enough. The old man chuckled before leaving. As the door closed, Noah leaned against the counter. You know. What? I thought witches sold dramatic glowing potions. They glow sometimes. Really? When I accidentally add too much moonflower. Noah burst into laughter. I can't tell if you're joking. Elias's expression remained perfectly calm. Neither can I. For the first time since meeting him, Noah realized. The quiet witch actually had a dry sense of humor. It was just hidden beneath layers of silence. Around noon, Noah finished the last of his deliveries in town. Instead of going home, he wandered back to Moonleaf Apothecary. Elias looked up from watering a small potted fern. Another delivery. No. Then, I skipped lunch. There was a brief silence. I was wondering if you had tea. Elias blinked. We have a tea corner. I know. I wanted an excuse to come back. The words left Noah's mouth before he could stop them. His ears turned bright red. I mean, the tea smells nice. Elias looked at him for a long moment. All right. A few minutes later, the two sat across from each other with steaming cups of herbal tea. Noah looked around the cozy room. I've lived here my whole life. But I've never actually slowed down enough to sit here. Elias stirred his tea. You're always moving. That's my job. And your hobby. You noticed. You don't sit still. Noah laughed. I guess I don't. For a while, neither of them spoke. Surprisingly, the silence wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. Noah watched sunlight filter through the windows, filling the room with a warm golden glow. I get it now. What? White people like coming here. Elias tilted his head. It's quiet. Noah smiled. Exactly. The peaceful moment ended when someone knocked urgently on the back door. Mrs. Agnes hurried inside. Elias. He immediately stood. What happened? My cat climbed the oak tree again. Again. And now she won't come down. A few minutes later, Noah and Elias stood beneath the enormous tree outside Mrs. Agnes's house. A fluffy orange cat stared down at them from one of the highest branches. Marmalade. Mrs. Agnes folded her arms. She does this every month. Noah looked up. That's really high. The cat responded with an unapologetic meow. I'll climb. Noah rolled up his sleeves. Before he could touch the trunk, Elias quietly stepped forward. He placed one hand against the bark. Closed his eyes. The leaves rustled gently. A soft green glow flowed through the branches. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, the branch beneath Marmalade slowly bent downward, as though the tree itself were offering a helping hand. The surprised cat blinked, then casually walked down the lowered branch into Elias's waiting arms. Noah stood frozen. Trees can do that. They usually don't. So, you asked politely. I did. Mrs. Agnes happily hugged Marmalade. My clever little witch. She handed Elias a fresh loaf of homemade bread. And this is your reward. No payment needed. Nonsense. She smiled. Good deeds deserve warm bread. As they walked back toward the shop, Noah remained unusually quiet. Finally, he spoke. You know, I've delivered packages all over this town. I thought I knew everyone. He smiled softly. But meeting you, it feels like I'm discovering Willowridge all over again. Elias looked toward the quiet streets lined with flowers and old trees. I'm still discovering it too. That evening, Noah stood outside Moonleaf Apothecary before heading home. The lights inside glowed warmly against the fading sunset. He smiled to himself. I think. I found my favorite place. Inside the shop, Elias watched Noah disappear down the road before returning to his work. Without realizing it, the once silent apothecary was slowly filling with laughter. And for the quiet young witch, that change no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt nice. Chapter 5: A Cat Who Talks. The morning after Noah's visit was unusually peaceful. The skies were clear. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees surrounding Moonleaf Apothecary, painting dancing shadows across the wooden floor. Elias opened every window to let in the cool countryside breeze. The scent of lavender and fresh herbs filled the shop. He smiled quietly. Good weather. After watering the herb garden, Elias picked a basket full of fresh mint and rosemary. The magical plants swayed gently as he passed. Thank you. The leaves rustled softly, as if replying. His grandmother had once told him, plants always answer those who truly care for them. Most people couldn't hear them. Elias could. Back inside, he began brewing a fresh batch of calm mind candles. Their warm scent helped people relax after long days. As he carefully stirred melted beeswax, the bell above the door rang. But no one entered. Elias looked up. The door was closed. Outside, the street was empty. Perhaps it had only been the wind. He returned to his work. A few moments later, clink, one of the empty glass bottles rolled across the counter by itself. Elias slowly looked toward the shelf. Nothing. Then, a black tail disappeared behind a stack of potion books. I see. He quietly walked around the counter. There, curled up inside an empty basket, was a fluffy black cat. Its emerald green eyes were half closed. It looked completely relaxed. As I thought. The cat lazily opened one eye. You're late. Elias blinked. You talk. The cat yawned. Obviously. Instead of screaming, Elias simply adjusted his glasses. I've met talking trees. Fair. The cat stretched before elegantly jumping onto the counter. You've grown. I was 12 the last time I saw you. Elias frowned. We've met. The cat sighed dramatically. Humans forget everything. I don't. You were just very small. The black cat gracefully sat down. My name is Luna. I'm Elias. I know. You used to cry every time your grandmother made you taste bitter medicine. Please don't remind me. It was adorable. Elias stared quietly at the cat. Your grandma's familiar. Luna flicked her tail. Finally. I was wondering how long it would take. Years ago, when Elias was still a child, a mysterious black cat would occasionally appear around the garden. His grandmother always left a small bowl of warm milk outside. Whenever Elias asked about it, she simply smiled. She's family. He had never questioned it. Now, everything made sense. So, Elias poured fresh milk into a small bowl. You've come home. Luna sniffed the bowl. I've come to inspect the new owner. Am I being graded? Absolutely. Just then, the front door burst open. Morning, Eli. Noah stopped mid-sentence. Cat. Luna slowly looked at him. Loud human. Noah froze. Did. Did the cat just insult me? Yes. I'm being bullied by a cat. Elias calmly continued arranging potion bottles. Her name is Luna. She talks. She does. And you're acting like this is normal. It is now. Noah cautiously approached. Can I pet her? Luna stared at him. No. Why? You have the energy of someone who trips over flat ground. I did that yesterday. I know. I watched. Noah looked utterly defeated. Elias couldn't help it. A small laugh escaped his lips. Noah immediately turned around. You laughed. Elias covered his mouth. You actually laughed. His ears turned red. It wasn't that funny. It absolutely was. For a brief moment, the entire shop echoed with laughter. Even Luna's whiskers twitched in amusement. That afternoon, business continued as usual. Mrs. Agnes stopped by with fresh strawberry jam. Mr. Dizon returned to say his shoulders already felt much better. Lucas proudly announced that he had slept through the entire night for the first time in weeks. Elias quietly listened to every story. Luna observed from the windowsill. You've become quite popular. I wouldn't say that. You know everyone's names. That's different. It isn't. As sunset painted the sky orange and gold, the last customer left. Elias locked the front door. He glanced toward Luna. So, where will you sleep? Luna leapt gracefully from the windowsill. Where I always slept. She walked upstairs as if she owned the place. Curious, Elias followed. Luna stopped in front of an old wooden rocking chair beside the library window. On the cushion rested a few strands of black fur, preserved by time. My favorite spot. Elias smiled softly. Grandma never moved the chair. I know. Luna curled into a comfortable ball. I missed this place. So did I. For a while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It was filled with old memories. Before closing her eyes, Luna spoke quietly. Your grandmother left you more than recipes, Elias. He looked toward her. What do you mean? Luna smiled in that mysterious way only ancient familiars could. You'll find out. When the time is right. Outside, the spirit tree shimmered beneath the rising moon. Its silver leaves rustled without a breeze. Deep within its trunk, a faint emerald light pulsed once. Watching. Waiting. And inside Moonleaf Apothecary, the quiet witch realized his peaceful home had gained one more resident. Not just a talking cat, but a guardian who had watched over his family for generations. Chapter 6: The Herb Garden Behind the House. The first thing Elias did every morning wasn't opening the shop. It wasn't brewing potions. It wasn't even making tea. He visited the garden. As the sun peeked over the eastern hills, Elias stepped through the wooden gate behind Moonleaf Apothecary, carrying nothing more than a watering can and a small notebook. The morning air was cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. Good morning. The leaves around him rustled gently. Most people would have seen an ordinary herb garden. But to a witch, it was an entire community. Rows of moon mint shimmered with tiny silver droplets that never dried. Clusters of silver sage sparkled faintly whenever someone nearby had a headache. Bright sun petals slowly turned to face Elias as he walked by. Small patches of glow moss illuminated the shaded corners beneath old stones. Even ordinary rosemary and lavender seemed healthier than those grown anywhere else. Every plant had its own personality. Every one responded differently to care. Elias knelt beside a bed of tiny blue flowers. One of the blossoms drooped sadly. You've been sharing too much mana again. He carefully loosened the soil around its roots before pouring only a few drops of enchanted spring water. There, the flower slowly stood upright. Much better. A cheerful voice suddenly called from beyond the wooden fence. Morning, Elias. Noah waved energetically while balancing a small basket. I figured I'd find you back here. Elias smiled. I usually am. Noah climbed through the open gate and looked around in amazement. I've been here before. But I never realized your garden was this big. The greenhouse stood near the back fence, its glass walls sparkling in the sunlight. Stone pathways wound between rows of colorful herbs. Tiny wooden signs marked each plant with neat handwriting. There was even a small pond where pale blue lilies floated peacefully. It's beautiful. Thank you. Noah crouched beside a patch of glowing mushrooms. Can I touch these? I wouldn't. Why? They giggle. Noah blinked. They what? They're shy. You're joking. Elias looked perfectly serious. I'm not. Curiosity won. Noah gently poked one of the mushrooms. Immediately, a chorus of tiny squeaking giggles echoed through the garden. Hey. Noah jumped backward. The mushrooms laugh. They do. I don't know why that scares me. From the greenhouse came an amused voice. That's because humans rarely listen. Noah froze. The cat's here too. Luna lazily stretched atop a wooden shelf inside the greenhouse. Of course. This is where the sun is. Luna leapt gracefully onto the ground. The herbs have been talking about you. Noah pointed at himself. Me. They say you're loud. I am. But they like your laughter. Noah's expression softened. Really? Luna flicked her tail. It scares away lonely spirits. As they continued walking through the garden, Noah noticed something unusual. Every few steps, small butterflies made of glowing green light fluttered between the flowers. What are those? Mana butterflies. They don't have bodies. They're made entirely of magic. One landed gently on Noah's shoulder. It glowed softly before floating away. That was kind of amazing. They eventually reached the oldest part of the garden. Standing proudly at its center was the magnificent spirit tree. Its silver trunk shimmered beneath the morning light, and its emerald leaves sparkled like scattered stars. Noah instinctively lowered his voice. It's beautiful. Elias gently placed a hand on the trunk. My grandmother planted it. It's enormous. It grew with the family. Noah looked around. Why does it feel peaceful? Elias nodded. The spirit tree protects the garden. It also remembers the people who've cared for it. Noah quietly looked up into its branches. For just a brief moment, he thought he saw countless tiny lights dancing among the leaves. When he blinked, they were gone. At that moment, the front bell of the shop rang loudly. Ding, ding, a customer. Elias turned toward the house. I'll be right back. Inside the shop stood a young woman wearing gardening gloves and carrying a clay pot. My tomato plants keep wilting. Elias examined the plant carefully. The leaves weren't diseased. The soil wasn't dry. Instead, he smiled. You've been worrying too much. She blinked. Excuse me. Plants can sense the emotions of those who care for them. I've been stressed at work. I know. He handed her a tiny pouch. This isn't fertilizer. What is it? Chamomile seeds. She looked confused. Grow these first. They're easier. When you relax, the tomatoes will follow. The woman laughed quietly. I've never been prescribed flowers before. It happens more often than you'd think. After she left, Noah leaned against the counter. You know, I've noticed something. What? You don't just treat plants. You treat people. Elias paused for a moment. Grandmother taught me something. What was it? A potion can't solve every problem, but kindness often helps people find the strength to solve them themselves. Noah smiled. She sounds amazing. She was. That evening, after closing the shop, Elias returned to the garden one last time. The sky had turned deep blue. Fireflies drifted lazily among the flowers. Luna sat beneath the spirit tree, quietly watching the stars. Elias watered the final row of herbs before sitting beneath the great silver tree. Another good day. The leaves rustled softly above him. Somewhere deep within the trunk, a gentle emerald light pulsed once more. Almost, as though the ancient tree agreed. Unseen by Elias, tiny roots beneath the spirit tree stretched a little farther into the earth. Something ancient was slowly awakening. But for now, the quiet witch simply enjoyed the cool evening breeze, surrounded by the peaceful garden that had become both his home and his heart. Chapter 7 The Lonely Little Witch. The afternoon sun bathed Willowridge in warm golden light. It was the quietest time of day. Farmers were still in their fields. Students hadn't returned home yet. Even Noah was busy making deliveries. Inside Moonleaf Apothecary, only the soft ticking of an old wall clock could be heard. Elias carefully arranged jars of dried herbs while Luna dozed lazily on the windowsill. Everything was peaceful. Then, ding, the shop bell rang. A small girl cautiously peeked through the doorway. She couldn't have been older than 10. She wore a blue raincoat even though the sky was clear, and she hugged a worn-out backpack tightly against her chest. Welcome. Elias greeted her with his usual gentle smile. The little girl looked around nervously. Can I just look around? Of course. There isn't an entrance fee. She nodded quickly before quietly wandering between the shelves. For nearly 15 minutes, she didn't touch anything. She simply admired the bottles, books, and bundles of herbs hanging from the ceiling. Occasionally, she would stop to read the handwritten labels. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. Elias returned to labeling potion bottles. He didn't interrupt her. His grandmother had once taught him. Some people enter a shop because they need medicine. Others enter because they need a place where no one asks difficult questions. Eventually, the little girl stopped in front of a bookshelf. Excuse me. Yes. Quote dot dot dot. Are all these books about witches? They are. She hesitated. Quote dot dot dot. Can normal people read them? Elias smiled. Some of them. Her face brightened. A few minutes later, she sat quietly in the tea corner with a thick picture book titled A Beginner's Guide to Friendly Magical Plants. Beside her sat a cup of warm honey milk. She looked completely absorbed. Luna lazily opened one eye. Quote dot dot dot. She's been here before. Elias looked surprised. She has. When you were upstairs. Quote dot dot dot. You didn't tell me. You didn't ask. After nearly an hour, the little girl carefully closed the book. Quote dot dot dot. Thank you. You may borrow it if you'd like. Her eyes widened. Quote dot dot dot. Really? As long as you promise to bring it back. She hugged the book tightly. I will. Just then, the shop door opened once more. A worried woman hurried inside. Mia, the little girl looked guilty. Quote dot dot dot. Mom. Her mother sighed with relief before hugging her tightly. I've been looking everywhere. I'm sorry. I just wanted to visit the witch shop. The woman smiled apologetically toward Elias. I'm sorry for troubling you. Not at all. Mia looked down. Quote dot dot dot. Mom doesn't like magic. Her mother quickly shook her head. That's not true. I'm just worried. She gently placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Mia was born with a little mana. Very little. But ever since she found out, she's been dreaming of becoming a witch. Mia looked at Elias with hopeful eyes. Quote dot dot dot. Can anyone become a witch? The room became quiet. Even Luna stopped pretending to sleep. Elias knelt until he was eye level with her. Tell me, why do you want to become one? Mia answered without hesitation. So I can help people smile. Elias blinked. It was almost the exact same answer he had once given his grandmother. He smiled warmly. Then you're already taking the first step. Quote dot dot dot. Really? A witch isn't someone who can simply cast spells. It's someone who chooses to help others. Mia listened with complete attention. Magic comes after kindness. The little girl's smile grew brighter than the afternoon sun. Before leaving, Elias walked upstairs and returned carrying a tiny clay flower pot. Inside grew a single tiny sprout. This is a moon daisy. Mia carefully accepted it. What do I do? Water it every morning. Talk to it. Quote dot dot dot. Talk to it. It grows better when someone believes in it. She giggled. I can do that. As Mia and her mother reached the door, she suddenly turned around. Quote dot dot dot. Mr. Elias. Yes. Quote dot dot dot. Can I come back? Elias smiled. The tea corner is always open. And he pointed toward the bookshelf. So are the books. After they left, Luna gracefully jumped onto the counter. Quote dot dot dot. You gave away one of your favorite plants. I did. You've been growing that one for 3 years. Elias looked toward the empty doorway where Mia had disappeared. I think it found a better home. The following afternoon, almost exactly at 3 o'clock, the shop bell rang. Ding. Mia rushed inside carrying the flower pot. Elias. Quote dot dot dot. Look. The tiny sprout had already grown 2 new leaves. I talked to it all night. Luna sighed dramatically. Quote dot dot dot. Please tell me you also let it sleep. Mia blinked. Quote dot dot dot. Plants sleep. They do. Her eyes became even wider. I didn't know. From that day onward, 3 o'clock quietly became a special time inside Moonleaf Apothecary. Mia would arrive after school. She would finish her homework at the tea corner. Read books from the little library. Ask endless questions about herbs and potions. And occasionally help Elias label jars. Little by little, the once silent afternoons filled with cheerful conversations. The quiet witch never admitted it aloud. But each day, he found himself looking at the clock just before 3. Waiting for the familiar sound of the little bell. And somehow, his lonely little shop felt more like a home than ever before. Chapter 8 Potion Festival Preparations. A week passed peacefully. The afternoons became livelier as Mia's daily visits turned into a familiar routine, and Noah found increasingly creative excuses to stop by Moonleaf Apothecary. Some days he brought packages. Other days, he simply claimed he was passing by. Neither Elias nor Luna believed him. One crisp autumn morning, Willowridge felt different. Colorful banners stretched across the streets. Children helped decorate the town square with flowers and paper lanterns. The scent of fresh bread drifted from the bakery. People smiled more than usual. Noah burst through the apothecary door with his usual enthusiasm. Elias. Good morning. You forgot, didn't you? Elias paused from grinding herbs. Forgot what? The Harvest Potion Festival. Ah, you forgot. I remembered. You definitely didn't. I remembered just now. Luna, lounging atop a shelf, sighed dramatically. Arwich remembers important dates only after someone reminds him. I was busy. You alphabetized your tea leaves yesterday. That was important. Noah laughed so hard he had to lean against the counter. The Harvest Potion Festival was Willowridge's oldest tradition. Every autumn, herbalists, healers, gardeners, and witches from nearby towns gathered to share harmless potions and herbal remedies. There were no contests for combat magic. No dangerous spells. Only creations that made everyday life better. The most popular potion each year earned the Golden Leaf Medal. More importantly, it earned the gratitude of the townsfolk. Mrs. Agnes entered carrying a basket of freshly baked cinnamon rolls. I heard you're participating this year. Elias looked up. I wasn't planning to. Mrs. Agnes smiled knowingly. Your grandmother entered every year. I know. She always said the festival wasn't about winning. It was about meeting people. Later that afternoon, Mayor Benjamin Flores arrived. The elderly mayor adjusted his glasses before smiling warmly. Elias. Mayor. I have a favor to ask. I'm listening. The festival committee would like Moonleaf Apothecary to set up a booth. Elias hesitated. I'm not very good with crowds. I know. You don't have to make speeches. Just bring your potions. The town would love to see you there. After the mayor left, silence filled the shop. Noah broke it first. You should do it. I don't know. You help people every day. This is just helping more people at once. Luna nodded. Besides, you've spent years hiding behind these walls. It might be time to let Willowridge know its quiet witch. Elias looked toward the old portrait of his grandmother hanging above the fireplace. She smiled gently from the faded photograph. What would you do? The answer came almost immediately. Not through magic, but through memory. If people are willing to walk toward your kindness, the least you can do is open the door. Elias smiled softly. All right. Preparations began the very next day. Moonleaf Apothecary became busier than ever. Shelves filled with fresh bottles. Labels were rewritten. Gift boxes were carefully wrapped with twine. Mia insisted on helping. I can tie ribbons. You certainly can. She proudly decorated dozens of tiny potion bottles. Most ribbons ended up slightly crooked. Elias left every single one untouched. They're perfect. They are. They're made with care. Mia beamed. Noah volunteered as well. I'll carry everything. You'll need to be careful. I always am. Luna coughed loudly. Ahem. Mostly. The garden also became unusually active. Elias harvested moon mint under the morning dew. Silver sage shimmered brightly. Sun petals opened earlier than usual. Even the giggling mushrooms seemed especially energetic. As though the garden itself knew something important was approaching. That evening, Elias brewed a brand new recipe. It wasn't flashy. It didn't sparkle endlessly. It didn't change colors. Instead, it released a gentle fragrance that reminded people of the happiest afternoon they had ever spent with family. One sip, and weary hearts felt just a little lighter. Luna sniffed the steam. Nostalgia tea. Elias nodded. I've never made it before. It smells like home. I hope it reminds others of theirs. Just before sunset, the spirit tree shimmered softly. Several glowing leaves drifted down into Elias's hands. Unlike ordinary leaves, these were silver with veins of emerald light. Luna quietly stared. It has accepted your festival. Elias looked confused. My festival. The tree only gives those leaves to witches it believes are ready to share their gifts. He carefully placed the glowing leaves into his notebook. I'll treasure them. As darkness settled over Willowridge, lanterns lit every street in preparation for tomorrow's celebration. From the second-floor window of Moonleaf Apothecary, Elias quietly watched the town below. Children laughed. Families carried decorations. Home. Neighbors chatted happily. The festival hadn't even begun. Yet the entire town already felt warmer. For the first time since inheriting the shop, Elias found himself looking forward to tomorrow. Not because of the potions. Not because of the festival. But because he would be sharing something his grandmother had taught him long ago. Sometimes, the greatest magic wasn't found inside a bottle. It was found in the smile of someone whose day had become just a little brighter. Chapter 9: The Rival Apothecary. The morning of the Harvest Potion Festival arrived with bright blue skies and a cool autumn breeze. From the windows of Moonleaf Apothecary, Elias could already hear cheerful voices drifting from the town square. Children laughed. Musicians tuned their instruments. Merchants opened colorful stalls decorated with ribbons, flowers, and glowing lanterns. Willowridge came alive only once each year like this. Inside the shop, however, everything remained calm. Elias carefully checked each bottle one last time. Sleep tea, mountain herb salve, calm mind candles, flower awakening tonic, and at the center of the display, a neatly wrapped glass bottle labeled nostalgia tea. Noah carefully loaded the wooden crates onto his delivery cart. Fragile. I know. Very fragile. I know. If you run, I won't run. Luna flicked her tail. He'll jog enthusiastically. I heard that. By mid-morning, Moonleaf Apothecary's booth stood ready in the town square. Unlike the colorful displays around it, Elias's booth was simple. Polished wooden shelves, fresh flowers, small handwritten signs, a steaming teapot inviting visitors to sample warm herbal blends. No flashy decorations, just quiet warmth. Mrs. Agnes smiled proudly. It looks exactly like your grandmother's booth. Elias looked around. I hope that's a good thing. It is. Visitors soon gathered. Many came only out of curiosity. The young Rowan witch. I've heard his teas are wonderful. My neighbor says his soap actually keeps mosquito spirits away. One by one, people sampled his creations. A tired teacher smiled after tasting calm mind tea. A gardener bought 3 bottles of flower awakening tonic. A retired carpenter purchased mountain herb salve. None of the conversations were loud. But every smile felt genuine. Just as the crowd began to settle, the distant sound of an engine echoed through the square. A sleek black van stopped near the entrance. Its doors opened. Several assistants stepped out carrying elegant display cases made of polished glass. People immediately whispered, She's here. The Potion Queen. I heard she won 3 regional festivals. Then, a tall young woman stepped gracefully from the vehicle. She wore a long ivory coat embroidered with silver vines. Her golden blonde hair was neatly tied behind her shoulders. Sharp emerald eyes calmly surveyed the square. She carried herself with quiet confidence. This was Professor Iris Vale, owner of the renowned Vale Botanical Atelier, one of the largest magical apothecaries in the nearby city. Her assistants quickly assembled an elaborate display. Crystal bottles shimmered under enchanted lights. Exotic herbs floated inside magical glass spheres. Everything looked expensive. Noah leaned toward Elias. That's intimidating. Elias quietly nodded. A little. Luna simply yawned. Show off. Moments later, Professor Iris walked through the festival, politely greeting familiar faces. Eventually, she stopped in front of Moonleaf Apothecary. Her eyes wandered across Elias's simple wooden shelves. Fresh herbs, handwritten labels, steam rising gently from a teapot. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then, she smiled. How refreshing. Noah blinked. I expected another booth trying to impress people with glitter. Instead, she picked up 1 bottle of nostalgia tea. May I? Of course. Elias poured her a small cup. The square became unusually quiet. Even nearby merchants watched curiously. Professor Iris took 1 careful sip. She closed her eyes. For several moments, no one spoke. When she finally opened them, there was genuine surprise. This tea. She looked directly at Elias. Who taught you? My grandmother. I see. She smiled softly. I should have guessed. Noah whispered. She's smiling. I noticed. I thought rivals were supposed to glare dramatically. Luna sighed. That's only in cheap novels. Professor Iris carefully placed the empty teacup back onto its saucer. You didn't brew this to impress judges. No, you brewed it for people. Yes. She nodded with quiet admiration. That's becoming surprisingly rare. For the rest of the afternoon, visitors flowed naturally between both booths. Some preferred Iris's sophisticated potions. Others found comfort in Elias's gentle remedies. Instead of competing, the two apothecaries occasionally exchanged advice. Your drying technique preserves the aroma well. Thank you. Your crystal storage method is impressive. It reduces mana loss. Their conversation soon drifted toward herbs, recipes, and cultivation methods. To everyone else's surprise, they sounded less like rivals, and more like two passionate gardeners discussing flowers. Later, Mia arrived carrying her little moon daisy. Mr. Elias, she proudly showed the tiny plant. It has 4 leaves now. Professor Iris crouched beside her. You've raised it beautifully. Mia beamed. Elias taught me. Professor Iris glanced toward Elias. Teaching children. He nodded. They're curious. Good. So are plants. As the sun began to set, the festival judges quietly visited every booth. They sampled teas, examined potions, asked questions. When they reached Moonleaf Apothecary, one elderly judge smiled after tasting nostalgia tea. This reminds me of my late wife. He quietly wiped away a tear. Thank you. Elias bowed politely. I'm honored. After the judges left, Professor Iris stood beside him beneath the orange evening sky. Rowan, yes, if you're willing, I'd like to visit your apothecary someday. Elias looked surprised. I'd be happy to welcome you. She smiled. And perhaps, we can exchange recipes. For the first time that day, Elias smiled without hesitation. I'd like that. As lanterns illuminated the festival grounds, Luna watched the 2 young apothecaries from atop the booth. Not rivals, she muttered to herself. More like kindred spirits. Far beyond the festival, the silver leaves of the spirit tree shimmered softly in the evening breeze, as though approving of the meeting. For it knew something neither Elias nor Iris yet understood. Their paths had only just begun to intertwine. And together, they would one day uncover secrets hidden long before either of them was born. Chapter 10. When flowers refused to bloom. The Harvest Potion Festival ended with laughter, music, and warm farewells. No matter who received awards, everyone agreed it had been one of Willowridge's happiest festivals in years. Moonleaf Apothecary quietly returned to its peaceful routine. Or so Elias believed. 3 mornings later, something was wrong. As always, Elias began his day in the herb garden. He greeted every row of herbs. Good morning. Usually, the plants answered with soft rustling leaves. Today, they remained silent. He frowned. That's strange. The moon mint drooped. Silver sage looked unusually pale. Even the cheerful sun petals kept their blossoms tightly closed despite the bright morning sun. Only the spirit tree stood unchanged, watching silently over the garden. Noah arrived shortly afterward carrying his usual delivery boxes. Morning. He immediately stopped smiling. Whoa. The garden looks tired. Elias nodded quietly. I noticed. Luna jumped gracefully onto a stone path. She sniffed the air. Not disease. No insects. No curses. She narrowed her emerald eyes. Something is making them sad. Noah blinked. Plants can be sad. They can. And right now, they're grieving. Before Elias could respond, the front bell rang repeatedly. Ding, ding, ding. Several townspeople entered together, each carrying flowerpots. Mrs. Agnes. Mr. Romero. The florist from Chapter 10. Even the mayor. Every single pot contained wilted flowers. Mrs. Agnes looked worried. My roses haven't opened all week. Mr. Romero nodded. The lilies near the church are the same. The town square flowers too, added the mayor. They simply refuse to bloom. Elias carefully examined each plant. The roots were healthy. No pests. No magical parasites. No poisoned soil. Everything appeared normal. Except, the flowers had completely stopped growing. Professor Iris Vale arrived unexpectedly just before noon. She had been visiting nearby villages after the festival when she heard the rumors. I came as quickly as I could. Elias welcomed her inside. "Thank you." Together, the two apothecaries examined every sample. Hours passed. They tested soil, mana density, water quality, even the sunlight. Nothing explained the problem. Noah scratched his head. "So, the flowers just decided." No, Luna interrupted. "Flowers never, just decide. They're trying to tell us something." That evening, Elias walked alone into the forest carrying a lantern. Whenever he didn't understand plants, he asked older ones. The ancient oak trees surrounding Willowridge had stood for centuries. Surely they had seen something. He gently placed his hand against the bark of the oldest tree. "Please, can you tell me what's happening?" The leaves rustled, slowly, weakly. A whisper drifted through the forest. "Lonely." Elias froze. Lonely. Again. The branches swayed. Waiting. Forgotten. Back at the apothecary, Elias shared what he had heard. Professor Iris listened carefully. "The flowers aren't sick. They're responding." "To what?" "The forest's emotions." Noah looked completely confused. "Forests have emotions too." Luna sighed. "Everything alive does." That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He sat beneath the spirit tree watching the stars. What are we forgetting?" The great silver tree shimmered softly. One glowing leaf drifted into his hands. Unlike the previous silver leaves, this one glowed pale blue. As soon as Elias touched it, a forgotten memory surfaced. He was 6 years old. His grandmother held his tiny hand as they walked through the forest. Each spring, the townspeople gathered beneath the oldest oak. Children sang. Families shared food. Witches offered blessings, not for themselves, but for the forest that protected Willowridge. It had been called the Blooming Promise. After his grandmother passed away, the tradition quietly disappeared. No one had intended to abandon it. People had simply forgotten. The next morning, Elias immediately visited the mayor. "I think I know what's wrong." By afternoon, the entire town gathered at the ancient oak tree for the first time in many years. There were no elaborate rituals, no expensive offerings. Children tied ribbons to the branches. Families shared homemade meals. Musicians played gentle songs. Mia carefully watered tiny wildflowers growing nearby. Mrs. Agnes thanked the forest aloud for watching over Willowridge. Noah helped clean fallen branches. Professor Iris quietly planted new flower seeds. Elias simply stood beneath the old oak. "Thank you," the breeze answered. At first, nothing happened. Then, one tiny wildflower opened. Another. Then another. Within minutes, color spread through the forest floor like flowing paint. Across town, the roses bloomed. The lilies opened. Sun petals lifted toward the sky. Moon mint shimmered brighter than ever. Back at Moonleaf Apothecary, even the sleepy mushrooms began giggling again. The mayor laughed joyfully. "It's blooming." Children cheered. Mrs. Agnes quietly wiped away happy tears. Professor Iris looked toward Elias. "You didn't solve the mystery with magic." He smiled softly. "No, we solved it with gratitude." She nodded. "Your grandmother would have been proud." That evening, the spirit tree glowed brighter than it ever had before. Its silver leaves danced gently beneath the moonlight. Deep beneath its roots, ancient magic stirred once more. Not because someone cast a powerful spell, but because an old promise had been remembered. As Elias closed the garden gate for the night, he looked across the now vibrant flowers swaying peacefully in the breeze. He smiled. Some magic wasn't hidden inside potions. Some magic bloomed only when people remembered to care for the world that quietly cared for them. Chapter 11: The Forgotten Forest Shrine. Several days had passed since the flowers of Willowridge bloomed once more. Life gradually returned to its peaceful rhythm. The shelves of Moonleaf Apothecary filled with fresh herbs. Mia returned every afternoon after school. Noah still found suspiciously convenient reasons to stop by. And Luna continued pretending she wasn't waiting by the front door every morning for everyone's arrival. "I am merely inspecting the weather." From inside the shop, Noah asked. "The weather comes to me." Fair enough. One quiet morning, Elias was trimming the moon mint when the spirit tree suddenly shimmered. Unlike before, its leaves didn't simply glow. They drifted toward the old stone wall at the edge of the garden. One by one, as though pointing somewhere. Elias frowned. Luna. The black cat looked up. It has finally decided. Decided what? To show you. The spirit tree had stood behind Moonleaf Apothecary longer than anyone could remember. Yet, behind its thick roots was a section of ivy-covered stone wall Elias had never paid much attention to. The glowing leaves gathered before it. Then, a faint emerald symbol appeared across the moss. A crescent moon intertwined with a flowering branch. Elias slowly reached out. The moment his fingers touched the symbol, the ivy quietly moved aside. Hidden behind it was a narrow stone pathway. There's a path here. Noah stared with wide eyes. I've lived in Willowridge my whole life. I never knew this existed. Luna stretched lazily. That's because you weren't meant to. The pathway wound deep into the forest. The farther they walked, the quieter everything became. Even the birds fell silent. Sunlight filtered gently through towering ancient trees. Tiny blue spirit butterflies floated between the branches. The air smelled faintly of cedar, moss, and old magic. Mia looked around excitedly. It's beautiful. Professor Iris, who had been visiting the apothecary that morning, quietly followed beside Elias. This mana. It's ancient. After nearly 20 minutes, the forest opened into a hidden clearing. At its center stood a small shrine made of white stone. Time had covered it in moss and flowering vines. Its roof had partially collapsed. Several stone lanterns lay broken around the entrance. Yet despite its age, the shrine radiated a peaceful warmth. Noah whispered. How did nobody find this? Professor Iris gently touched one of the old stone pillars. Enchantment. The shrine didn't disappear. It simply allowed itself to be forgotten. Elias slowly stepped toward the entrance. The moment he crossed the stone gate, the pendant his grandmother had once given him began glowing faintly. Luna smiled. Welcome home. Inside the shrine was only a single room. No statues. No treasure. Only rows of wooden shelves. Covered in dust. Thousands of old books. Bundles of dried herbs preserved by magic. Clay jars sealed with ancient wax. Everything had remained untouched for decades. Elias carefully picked up the nearest notebook. The familiar handwriting immediately caught his attention. Grandma. His voice trembled. On the first page were simple words. To the next caretaker of Moonleaf Apothecary. He slowly turned the pages. The notebook wasn't filled with powerful spells. Instead, it contained observations. Mrs. Agnes prefers lavender tea when pretending everything is fine. Mr. Romero always forgets to water plants on Wednesdays. Kindness works faster than most potions. Never rush a flower into blooming. People bloom the same way. Elias quietly smiled through misty eyes. That sounds exactly like her. Near the back of the room stood an old wooden chest. Unlike everything else, it remained locked, not with metal, but with vines. The spirit tree's silver leaves gently floated toward it. As one touched the lock, the vines slowly unraveled. Inside rested three objects: a beautifully carved wooden ladle, an old leather-bound recipe journal, and a folded letter, addressed simply to Elias. With careful hands, he unfolded it. My dear Elias, if you're reading this, then the spirit tree has accepted you. I'm proud of you, not because you've become a great witch, but because you've remained a kind one. Remember, this apothecary was never built to create famous witches. It was built so tired people would always have somewhere warm to return to. Take care of the garden. Take care of the town. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Also, please don't let Luna steal all the cream. Luna immediately looked away. That accusation lacks evidence. Noah laughed. She knew. She always knew. Even Professor Iris smiled quietly. She sounds like someone I wish I could have met. Elias gently folded the letter and placed it close to his heart. I think you would have become friends. As everyone explored the shrine, Mia discovered something beneath one of the windows. A tiny stone bird with one broken wing. It's hurt. Elias knelt beside her. No, it's waiting. Together they carefully placed the little statue back onto its pedestal. The moment they stepped back, a warm breeze swept through the shrine. The cracked stone lanterns softly lit. Dust vanished from the shelves. Flowers bloomed along the walls. The forgotten shrine awakened once more. Far outside the clearing, the spirit tree behind Moonleaf Apothecary shone brighter than ever before. Deep beneath Willow Ridge, ancient roots connected the tree, the shrine, and the forest itself. For generations, the Rowan family had quietly watched over this sacred place. Now, a new caretaker had accepted that responsibility. Not through power, not through destiny, but through kindness. And though Elias still believed he was simply a quiet witch running a small countryside shop, the forest had already begun calling him by another name. Its guardian. Chapter 12 Festival Night. Twilight settled gently over Willow Ridge. The final evening of the Harvest Potion Festival had arrived. As the sun disappeared behind the rolling hills, thousands of paper lanterns lit one by one, filling the town with a warm amber glow. The streets became even livelier than before. Children ran between festival stalls. Musicians played cheerful folk songs. The aroma of roasted chestnuts, fresh bread, herbal tea, and sweet pastries drifted through the cool evening air. Moonleaf Apothecary's booth stood quietly beneath an old maple tree. Unlike the colorful displays surrounding it, Elias had only added a few lanterns and fresh flowers from his garden. Simple, warm, comfortable, exactly as his grandmother had always preferred. Noah looked around with sparkling eyes. I swear, the festival gets prettier every year. Mia nodded excitedly while holding Luna in her arms. There are so many lights. Luna sighed. I tolerate this because the child gives excellent head pats. I'm being complimented. No, you're being acknowledged. Professor Iris arrived carrying a neatly wrapped wooden box. I brought something. Elias looked surprised. You didn't have to. I know. She smiled gently. I wanted to. Inside the box were beautifully crafted glass teacups. Each one had tiny silver vines etched around the rim. They're made by a glass artisan in the city. They preserve warmth surprisingly well. Elias carefully held one. They're beautiful. I thought they suited your tea. He smiled warmly. Thank you. As darkness deepened, the festival officially began. Mayor Benjamin stepped onto the small stage in the center of the square. My friends. The crowd quieted. Every year, this festival reminds us that magic isn't only found in grand spells. It lives in shared meals, in healing, in friendship, and in every act of kindness. The crowd applauded. Lanterns floated gently into the evening sky. The judging ceremony soon followed. Several respected herbalists and village elders gathered near the stage. The elderly head judge smiled warmly. This year's creations reminded us that magic serves people best when it comes from the heart. Third place went to a traveling herbalist from the neighboring village. Second place, Professor Iris Vale. The crowd applauded loudly. She accepted the silver leaf medal with graceful humility. Then, the head judge smiled once more. And this year's golden leaf medal goes to. He looked toward the quiet booth beneath the maple tree. Moonleaf Apothecary. For a brief moment, Elias simply blinked. Me. Noah immediately began cheering. Elias, you did it. Mrs. Agnes clapped proudly. I knew it. Mia jumped excitedly. Mr. Elias won. Even Luna's tail swayed slightly. Acceptable. The mayor personally handed Elias the golden leaf medal, shaped like a delicate golden autumn leaf. You've honored your grandmother's legacy. Elias bowed politely. Thank you. The crowd waited for a speech. He stepped toward the microphone. Immediately, he froze. Hundreds of eyes looked at him. Noah whispered from below. You've got this. Elias took a deep breath. I'm not very good at speaking. The crowd chuckled kindly. But, I'm grateful. My grandmother taught me that the best potions aren't the strongest. They're the ones people remember because they were made with kindness. He looked around the smiling crowd. So, thank you, for giving my little shop a place in your lives. His speech lasted less than a minute. Yet, the applause that followed was the loudest of the evening. Later that night, after the ceremony ended, the festival transformed into something quieter. Families spread picnic blankets across the grass. Neighbors shared homemade dishes. Children released tiny floating lanterns into the river. Professor Iris joined Elias, Noah, Mia, Luna, and Mrs. Agnes beneath the maple tree. For once, no one discussed potions. They simply enjoyed tea together. Noah held up his teacup. A toast to Moonleaf Apothecary. Mia quickly copied him. To Mr. Elias. Mrs. Agnes laughed. To kindness. Professor Iris smiled. To friendships yet to come. Everyone looked toward Luna. The black cat lazily opened one eye. To cream. Everyone burst into laughter. Even Elias laughed openly. It was warm, natural, the kind of laughter that lingered long after the sound disappeared. As the celebration continued, a young couple quietly approached the booth. The woman bowed politely. We wanted to thank you. Elias tilted his head. For what? The man smiled. 3 months ago, you sold us a tea for sleepless nights. Our daughter finally sleeps peacefully. He gently lifted a small sleeping baby wrapped in a blanket. We just wanted you to know. She's healthy. Elias looked at the peacefully sleeping child. His smile softened. I'm glad. They left soon afterward. No payment. No purchase. Only gratitude. Somehow, that felt more valuable than any medal. Near midnight, the crowd slowly dispersed. Lanterns still floated across the river like tiny stars. Elias stood alone for a moment in the now quiet square. He looked down at the golden leaf medal resting in his hand. Then, he quietly walked to the old maple tree at the edge of the festival grounds. There, beneath its roots, he gently buried a single silver leaf gifted by the spirit tree. A gift for the town, the breeze answered softly. Somewhere in the distance, the spirit tree shimmered. Its silver leaves danced beneath the moonlight. Far below the earth, ancient roots reached a little farther. As though the forest itself had celebrated alongside the people of Willowridge. Elias looked toward the warmly lit windows of Moonleaf Apothecary in the distance. For the first time in many years, the little shop no longer felt hidden away. It had become a place where people gathered. Where stories began. Where tired hearts found rest. And tonight, under countless glowing lanterns, the quiet witch finally realized he was no longer walking this peaceful path alone. Chapter 13 The Spirit Tree Awakens. Autumn slowly gave way to early winter. The mornings became colder. A thin layer of frost covered the rooftops of Willowridge, while soft white mist drifted lazily across the countryside. Inside Moonleaf Apothecary, the fireplace crackled warmly. The scent of cinnamon tea and fresh herbs welcomed every visitor. Life had settled back into its gentle rhythm. Yet, something in the garden was changing. Every dawn, Elias noticed the spirit tree glowing a little brighter. Not enough for ordinary people to notice. But enough for Luna to stop pretending nothing was happening. She quietly watched the tree every morning. It's almost time. One afternoon, Noah overheard her. Time for what? Luna looked toward the silver branches. For the tree to wake up. It sleeps. It has for almost 20 years. That evening, Professor Iris arrived carrying several books from her atelier. I found references to spirit trees. She carefully spread the old books across the tea table. According to these, a spirit tree awakens only when 3 conditions are fulfilled. Mia leaned closer. What are they? Professor Iris smiled. First, a worthy caretaker. She looked toward Elias. Second, a town that remembers kindness. Everyone immediately remembered the blooming promise. And third, she gently closed the final book. A home filled with genuine bonds. Silence settled over the room. Noah scratched his cheek. I think we accidentally did all of those. Luna nodded. You did. That night, snow began falling for the first time that year. Tiny flakes drifted quietly across the herb garden. Most plants had already entered their winter rest. Only the spirit tree remained vibrant. Its silver leaves shimmered beneath the moonlight like countless tiny stars. Elias stepped outside wrapped in a thick green coat. You're beautiful. The tree answered with a soft rustle. Then, a single silver leaf drifted into his hands. Unlike before, this one dissolved into tiny particles of light. The lights surrounded Elias. The entire garden suddenly glowed emerald. No wind, no sound, only light. Inside the house, every teacup on the shelves began humming softly. Potion bottles shimmered. The old books in the library gently turned their own pages. Even the fireplace burned emerald for just a moment. Noah stared through the window. Elias. The ground beneath the spirit tree gently trembled. Its roots slowly rose from the earth before settling again. Ancient symbols appeared across its silver bark. They glowed with soft golden light. One by one, every herb in the garden began blooming. Moon mint, silver sage, glow moss, sun petals, even flowers that normally bloomed only in spring opened beneath the falling snow. Mia gasped, "It's snowing. And the flowers are blooming." Professor Iris quietly whispered, "I've only read about this." The spirit tree's enormous branches slowly stretched toward the sky. Tiny spirit butterflies emerged from its leaves. Thousands of them, blue, green, silver, golden, they filled the winter night like living stars. Luna quietly walked toward the tree. Then, to everyone's surprise, she bowed, not to Elias, to the spirit tree. Guardian. The ancient tree answered with a gentle pulse of emerald light. Suddenly, a warm voice echoed throughout the garden. Not through ears, but directly inside everyone's hearts. "Thank you." Mia looked around. Who said that? Professor Iris placed a hand over her chest. The tree. The gentle voice continued. "For remembering, for caring, for coming home." The spirit tree slowly released one final glowing seed. It floated gently toward Elias, landing softly in his hands. Unlike ordinary seeds, it shimmered with silver and emerald light. Luna smiled. The heart seed. What is it? The greatest gift a spirit tree can give. Professor Iris looked astonished. "I thought those existed only in legends." The tree's light slowly faded. Not because it had become weaker, but because it had finally awakened completely. Its glow now felt calm, comfortable, like the warm light from Moonleaf Apothecary's windows. Snow continued falling. The spirit butterflies gradually disappeared into the forest. One by one, returning home, the herbs settled peacefully. The garden became quiet again, as though nothing extraordinary had happened. Everyone stood silently for a while. Finally, Noah smiled. Well, that was definitely the coolest thing I've ever seen. Mia nodded enthusiastically. The tree talked. Professor Iris laughed softly. "I'll need to rewrite several chapters of my research." Even Luna looked unusually content. Welcome back, she whispered to the ancient tree. Before returning inside, Elias gently placed his hand against the silver bark. Thank you. The leaves rustled softly. This time, he understood them perfectly. Not with magic, not with words, but with his heart. The spirit tree no longer protected only the Rowan family. It now watched over everyone who had found warmth within Moonleaf Apothecary. The lonely, the weary, the curious, the grieving, the hopeful. Its roots stretched quietly beneath Willow Ridge, connecting every flower, every forest, every home, just as kindness connected every person whose lives had slowly become intertwined. And from that winter night onward, Moonleaf Apothecary was no longer known as merely the home of a quiet young witch. It became known as the house beneath the spirit tree. Chapter 14, the witch everyone knows. Winter settled comfortably over Willow Ridge. The mornings were wrapped in pale mist, while snow rested gently upon rooftops and fences. Despite the cold, Moonleaf Apothecary had never been warmer. The fireplace crackled from sunrise until evening. Fresh herbal tea steamed continuously. The little bell above the door hardly stopped ringing anymore. Elias looked around the shop in mild disbelief. We're out of sleep tea. Mia checked the shelves, and only one jar of honey left. Noah carried another crate inside. I already picked up your third delivery this week. Luna stretched on the windowsill. Popularity. I warned you. Only a few months ago, people rarely visited the apothecary. Now, the little shop had become part of everyone's daily routine. Some customers came to buy remedies. Others simply stopped by for tea. Some brought homemade bread. Others came to ask Elias's opinion about gardens, flowers, or life. Without realizing it, Moonleaf Apothecary had quietly become Willowridge's favorite gathering place. One snowy afternoon, a middle school student rushed inside carrying a notebook. "Mr. Rowan." Elias looked up. "Yes, our teacher assigned us to interview someone important in town." Important? The boy nodded enthusiastically. I chose you. Elias blinked. I think the mayor would have been a better choice. My classmates already picked him. I see. The interview lasted nearly an hour. The student asked countless questions. When did you become a witch? What potion are you proudest of? Have you ever fought monsters? No. Really? I once chased a raccoon away from the herb garden. Does that count? The boy laughed. I'll write that down. The next morning, the local newspaper arrived. On the front page, a headline read, "The Quiet Witch Who Helps Everyone Smile." Below it was a sketch of Elias standing outside Moonleaf Apothecary holding a watering can. Noah proudly held up the paper. You're famous. I'm on page 3. That's still famous. Mrs. Agnes chuckled while sipping tea. You've become the town's witch. Elias shook his head. I'm just the apothecary. Professor Iris, who happened to be visiting, smiled knowingly. Exactly. That's why people trust you. Over the following weeks, more unusual visitors began arriving. A traveling baker seeking enchanted yeast. A violinist whose hands became stiff from the cold. A veterinarian needing herbs safe for magical animals. A retired witch wanting someone to discuss old recipes with. Every visitor carried a different story. Every story quietly found a place inside Moonleaf Apothecary. One snowy evening, a young man entered wearing an expensive suit. He looked completely out of place in the countryside. He bowed politely. My name is Daniel. I work for Greenstar Botanical Industries. Professor Iris immediately recognized the company. They're one of the largest magical herb corporations in the country. Daniel smiled. That's correct. He turned toward Elias. We'd like to purchase exclusive rights to your potion recipes. Silence filled the shop. He placed a thick envelope on the counter. Inside was a contract, along with a number large enough to buy several houses. Noah's eyes widened. That's a lot. Mia simply looked confused. What's exclusive mean? Luna answered. It means only they would be allowed to make Elias's recipes. Mia frowned. That's mean. Daniel continued calmly. Your talent deserves a wider audience. We could produce your remedies nationwide. Imagine helping millions. Elias quietly read every page. He remained silent for several minutes. Finally, he closed the folder. I'm honored. Daniel smiled confidently. So, I'm afraid I have to decline. Everyone became quiet. May I ask why? Daniel said. Elias looked toward the tea corner. Mrs. Agnes sat chatting happily with another customer. Lucas was reading one of the library books. Mia was carefully watering her moon daisy. Noah was laughing about another delivery mishap. Luna slept beside the fireplace. Elias smiled. My recipes were never meant to become products. They're conversations. Every tea is slightly different. Every remedy changes depending on the person. I don't simply sell potions. I get to know people. Daniel slowly lowered the contract. I understand. For the first time, he smiled genuinely. I think that's exactly why your shop matters. He respectfully bowed before leaving. That evening, the snow fell softly outside. The final customer had gone home. Elias quietly hung the little closed sign on the front door. He turned around. The tea corner was still warm. Several empty cups rested on the table. Laughter seemed to linger in the air. Professor Iris smiled. Busy day. It was. Noah stretched lazily. I'll be back tomorrow. You always are. Obviously. Mia waved enthusiastically. See you after school. Mrs. Agnes left another pie on the counter. For breakfast. Luna yawned. You're all impossibly noisy. No one believed her. When everyone had finally gone home, Elias stepped into the snowy garden. The spirit tree shimmered peacefully beneath the moonlight. Its silver branches stretched above Moonleaf Apothecary like protective arms. He gently placed a hand upon its trunk. I think I understand now. The leaves rustled softly. His grandmother had never wanted him to become the greatest witch. She had simply wanted him to become someone others could rely on. Someone who remembered names, listened carefully, shared tea, offered kindness without expecting anything in return. And somehow, without ever trying to become famous. The The quiet young witch had become exactly what Willowridge needed. Not a legendary mage. Not a powerful hero. Just the witch everyone knows. Chapter 15 A Peaceful Tomorrow. The first snow of winter had quietly settled across Willowridge. The fields beyond town looked like white blankets stretching toward the distant hills. Smoke rose lazily from chimneys. Children laughed as they built snowmen in the square. The countryside had become calm once again. Inside Moonleaf Apothecary, the fireplace crackled softly. The scent of cinnamon, honey, and fresh herbal tea filled the warm wooden shop. It felt like home. Elias stood before the counter, carefully arranging jars for the coming week. Sleep tea, calm mind candles, mountain herb salve, nostalgia tea. He smiled as he placed the last bottle on the shelf. Done. The bell above the door rang. Ding. Mrs. Agnes entered first. She carried, as always, a freshly baked pie. This one's apple and cinnamon. You really don't have to keep bringing these. Nonsense. You make tea. I make pies. That's how friendship works. Elias laughed softly. I suppose you're right. Not long after, Noah arrived carrying a small wooden crate. No deliveries today. Then why the crate? I made birdhouses. He proudly opened the lid. Inside were several hand-carved wooden birdhouses. They're for your garden. Elias carefully picked one up. The carving wasn't perfect. Some edges were uneven, but every nail had been driven in with care. They're wonderful. Noah grinned. I knew you'd say that. Right at 3 o'clock. Ding. The bell chimed once again. Mia hurried inside, brushing snow from her coat. Elias. Look. She carefully placed her moon daisy on the counter. The little flower had grown into a beautiful white blossom. I think it's happy. Elias gently touched one of the petals. It certainly is. You kept your promise. Mia smiled proudly. I talk to it every day. Luna stretched on the windowsill. And thankfully. You also let it sleep. Everyone laughed. Later that afternoon, Professor Iris arrived with a large wrapped package. For Moonleaf Apothecary. Elias blinked. What's this? Open it. Inside was a beautifully crafted wooden sign. Burned into the polished oak were elegant words. Moonleaf Apothecary. A warm cup, a kind word, a better tomorrow. Elias quietly traced the lettering with his fingertips. It's beautiful. It suits this place. Professor Iris smiled. I had it commissioned. As evening approached, the four friends stepped outside to hang the new sign above the shop entrance. Noah climbed the ladder. I've got it. Careful. I'm always careful. The ladder wobbled. Luna sighed. No, you're consistently lucky. After several nervous moments, the sign was finally secured. Everyone stepped back to admire it. The lantern light illuminated the polished wood. Snowflakes drifted gently around it. The shop looked even more welcoming than before. Mrs. Agnes quietly wiped away a tear. Your grandmother would have loved it. Elias smiled. I think so too. That evening, the apothecary remained open a little later than usual. Not because customers kept arriving, but because no one seemed eager to leave. Noah brewed tea under Elias's supervision. Mia finished her homework beside the fireplace. Professor Iris browsed old herb books in the library corner. Mrs. Agnes quietly knitted a scarf. Luna slept peacefully on her favorite rocking chair. No one needed to speak. The silence itself was comforting. After everyone finally went home, the shop became quiet once more. Elias washed the last teacup before walking into the snowy garden. The spirit tree stood beneath the moonlight, its silver branches gently shimmering. Tiny spirit butterflies rested among its leaves. He quietly placed both hands against the ancient trunk. Thank you. The leaves rustled softly, not with words, but with warmth. He looked toward the warmly lit windows of Moonleaf Apothecary. Only a year ago, he believed this peaceful little shop would be lonely. He imagined spending every day quietly brewing potions by himself. Instead, it had become filled with laughter, with stories, with unexpected friendships, with children asking endless questions, with neighbors who never forgot to visit, with a talking cat who pretended not to care, with people who simply wanted somewhere they could rest for a while. His grandmother had once asked him, Elias, what kind of witch do you want to become? Back then, he never knew the answer. Now, looking at the glowing windows, hearing faint echoes of today's laughter, feeling the spirit tree gently sway behind him, he finally understood. He didn't want to become the strongest witch, or the most famous, or the most talented. He simply wanted to become the kind of person others felt happy to visit. A soft breeze carried the scent of herbs through the snowy night. The spirit tree released a single silver leaf. It drifted gently onto the doorstep of Moonleaf Apothecary. A quiet blessing. For another tomorrow. For another customer in need of kindness. For another story waiting to begin. And as Elias quietly closed the garden gate, a warm light continued shining from the little apothecary at the edge of Willowridge. A place where ordinary people found extraordinary comfort. Where magic lived in gentle hands and warm tea. Where every visitor was welcomed like family. And where a quiet young witch discovered that sometimes the happiest life was not one filled with adventure, but one filled with people worth coming home to. End of Volume 1. Every cup of tea has a story. Every potion carries kindness. And every tomorrow begins with hope. Thank you for listening to II Fiction Stories. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.